refers to herself as the anti-diva.
Yeah, which is perfect. She, that's why a lot of people relate to her is because of, the character she plays. And then there's the Bella twins.
The Bella twins, who pretty much, they actually left WWE for a couple of years, and when WWE decided they were going to do that Total Divas show, that's why I brought the Bellas back. I mean, it wasn't the fact that, the relationships with John Cena and, Daniel Bryan. It was the fact that, hey, we're going to make you the stars of the show.
Oh, they do make a very entertaining show. I think they're overrated. I think, it's time for that reign to end.
I'm kind of thinking part of the reason why they're keeping the belt on Nikki Bella so long, I mean, she's had the belt now for...
It's to hide her belly button?
Well, she's been champion now officially for 203 days. I think the real reason why they haven't taken the belt off of her is AJ Lee recently retired. She is the wife of CM Punk, who currently is not in favor with WWE because he walked out on them to pursue other interests.
He may be the one that we were talking about earlier.
But she went off. She walked out on her own terms, and WWE doesn't necessarily like that. They don't, when you leave the company, they don't want you walking out looking good, regardless of whether she planned to completely retire or not.
WWE can be resembled to a bit of a cult. They feel that the only way to leave the business is on bad terms.
Well, to be more, accurate, they would prefer that you leave, quote unquote, on your back, which means on a losing effort. Her last 2 matches with WWE, she actually won.
Yeah, so
so she left on her own terms. Good for her, but she was the longest reigning Divas champion of all time. In fact, she was the longest reigning women's champion, I believe, since Trish Stratus,
which was a very, very important name growing up. But anyways, Mike, what do you think about the result?
Well, I actually thought Paige was actually going to pull what the Bellas have been pulling a few times.
The twin switch,
the twin magic.
The twin magic. I figure Paige was going to find someone identical to her, and then...
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Well, and there's so many people they could have used. Emma, who's from Australia, by the way, and I mean they could have dyed her hair or got her to wear a wig, and it would have worked.
Do you think though the Bella twins should have been disqualified for that trick?
Absolutely. Once it got caught, they should have been caught.
Absolutely, I would have to agree with that too. That should have been a disqualification.
I will say I thought it was kind of funny because for those who don't know, at one point Nikki fell out of the ring, and her sister pretty much repeated the same thing that happened last week on Monday Night Raw, where they switched places. But this time, Paige ended up pinning her. After the match, Brie tries to tell the referee, "Hey, I'm Brie, not Nikki," and the referee wouldn't believe her until she started taking the Kleenex out of her top, because
and the tattoo showing.
Yeah, the tattoo showing. See, and then the referee went and said, "Oh, the match is going to continue." And that was really confusing because, once she admitted that she wasn't Nikki, referee should have disqualified.
Oh, absolutely.
For outside interference.
Yeah, it should not have continued. It should have ended right there.
Instead of, Nikki was allowed to sneak up behind Paige and hit her with the rack attack. And which seems a fitting name considering who we're talking about.
Oh, absolutely.
But I just again, that's just the first of couple of really stinker calls if the referees and
tonight it was bad for but what do you expect for the WWE?
Well, the thing is though, it was interesting because during the match they actually showed all the divas in the back watching, and they weren't really cheering one side or the other.
No.
But what it really feels like is this isn't over, and I think what is going to happen is eventually at least some of the divas are going to finally have enough, and they're going to side with Paige to go to war against the Bellas and get the belt off of her. So I would be really surprised if Nikki Bella is still women's champion by the time WWE comes out of SummerSlam.
Absolutely. So we're going to move on to the next match, though. You know, to carry along this topic, the Intercontinental title between Big Show and Ryback.
The champion with the Miz on
on mic.
Well, on commentary. And
he wasn't very commentary-like.
And the reason why the Miz was out there was that the night after Ryback won the Intercontinental title back at Elimination Chamber, he was supposed to take on the Miz. Big Show came in, knocked the Miz out, and said, if you're going to lose the title to anybody, it's going to be me. The following week, on an episode of the Miz's talk show, he tried to attack Big Show. He ended up, Ryback ended up showing just how strong he is by
lifting the 500-pound Big Show over his shoulders.
Over his shoulders and doing his version of the fireman's carry slam, the Samoan drop, which is called Shell Shock. Which, honestly, anybody who can pick 450-pound Big Show up on their shoulders is pretty impressive.
Oh, absolutely. That takes a lot of skill.
Ryback has incredible strength. I mean, it's just similar to Cena's incredible strength.
Oh, absolutely.
And honestly, I kind of got the impression going into the matchup, though, that the reason why they put Big Show in is they wanted to kind of build Ryback up to, possibly to try to repair the damage that they did when they first turned Ryback into a heel a couple of years ago.
They wanted to actually be able to show Ryback's true strength.
And so what they wanted to do is I really felt that they were, maybe within about a year's time, they, would be able to show him as being a serious contender for the world title.
You can't be a serious contender when you're fighting people like The Miz.
Well, here's the sad thing. I mean, when you look about The Miz, I believe 4 or 5 years ago, he main evented WrestleMania.
Yes, he did.
2 years later, The Miz wasn't even on WrestleMania. He was on the pre-show match in, I believe, a Battle Royal or something.
Yeah,
so he didn't even make it on.
That shows how low he is.
And so, I mean, they're trying to build him up at this point. So as the match progressed, it looked like Big Show was going to win the matchup. He hit the KO punch on Ryback. And The Miz went off and
hit him with a microphone.
Hit him repeatedly in the back, Big Show in the back of the head with a microphone, and then turned around and attacked Ryback as well.
Yeah.
Now, but again, a bad referee call because the referee, disqualified Ryback for Miz's interference, even though The Miz attacked them both.
Yeah.
Because The Miz attacks Big Show first.
Either way, it ends with Ryback not losing his title, which is, still good in my books.
I kind of get the impression what we're going to end up seeing is they're going to have a triple threat matchup, possibly a battleground. I know.
No. I would love to see Ryback versus Big Show again, but don't put The Miz in it.
I'm starting to wonder if WWE is finally getting smart about the way they book Big Show. I mean, Big Show is 450 pounds. He's legitimately 7 feet tall. I mean, he is probably second to Andre the Giant. He probably is the greatest big man of all time. And so I think they getting smart, and they don't want to they're trying to go off and protect him. And in this way, they have Ryback will pin The Miz, get the win, but Big Show won't be the one who gets pinned because, honestly, if you let everybody pin Big Show, that kind of waters it down. It should be like, whoa, he pinned Big Show.
Oh, absolutely.
And, I mean, and as much as, I really want to see Ryback, get a solid push, and I would love to see him, get a solid push as the Intercontinental champion. I grew up, Big Mike and I both, we grew up in the era where the Intercontinental Championship was considered the fighting man's championship.
Absolutely.
I mean,
there's been top greatest Intercontinental champions of the past, like there's
Macho Man Randy Savage,
Tito Santana,
Greg the Hammer Valentine,
the Magnificent Morocco,
Bret the Hitman Hart,
Ken Patera,
Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig.
Yes, absolutely.
Can't forget Shawn Michaels. I mean,
no one can forget Shawn Michaels.
No, I mean, obviously you can't. And I mean, that's just a couple of them. I mean, that was the title especially back when there was only maybe 2 or 3 pay-per-views a year. you'd be lucky if you saw Hulk Hogan.
And now there's almost like one every month.
There's more than, in some cases, there's more than one a month. But, I mean, we were lucky if you saw, like, the world champion on TV back then. And now, I mean, it's been completely watered down. But back then, I mean, you were guaranteed to see, the Intercontinental Champion defend that title at least once a month.
You just can't forget another greatest Intercontinental Champion, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Ricky didn't really get much of a chance to show what he could do for that title because his wife convinced him to actually take time off.
Yeah. Which I must say, boo on the wife.
Boo on the wife. And then on the upside, or maybe on the downside, depending on how you feel about it, this led to Honky Tonk Man becoming the Intercontinental Champion and became the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. And, Honky Tonk Man you'll never let us forget that he is the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. So, but, I don't, obviously, nothing is resolved between Ryback and Big Show.
Which is exactly how we want it to be.
Exactly, but what kind of worries me about this is it almost feels like they're going to go off and get Big Show to become a good guy again, and it seems really weird because they just go off and they turn Big Show from good guy to bad guy, bad guy to good guy for no reason, and it's just
I know he's had a lot of that change of bad guy, good guy, bad guy, good guy. Because if you remember a legend, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, he was a heel at first, and then a good guy, and then he became a heel again, and then
then he became a good guy again. And it was another one of those things where it seemed really confusing. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next matchup.
Which was one of the most exciting ones we've seen in a while.
Honestly, I went off and I actually tweeted, I said, before this matchup happened, and it said, so far Money in the Bank is a huge pile of Dren. If you don't know what a Dren is, go find out, go watch Farscape, and you'll understand, and if you have any sort of imagination, you pretty much can figure out what Dren is. But, I mean, and so this matchup, I mean, we all knew that this was going to be a really solid matchup. Especially after, 2 weeks ago, seeing these guys have this incredible matchup, which let, of the result that Kevin Owens had won that matchup.
Which this one blew that one away
This
tenfold.
was incredibly a great matchup. John Cena was pulling out moves that we've never seen. I've been very impressed with John Cena now that he no longer has the weight of the company on his shoulders anymore.
Thank you, Rollins.
Yeah, thank you. Well, not just that, but thank you, Brock Lesnar and everyone else, because John Cena has now not been, world champion for almost a year.
You can actually, take the time now and enjoy watching him fight. I used to always hate John Cena. I still kind of do, but tonight and the last match with Kevin Owens definitely made him in a different light.
Well, he went off and he was pulling out so many new moves here. And, it was more than just John Cena and the 5 moves of doom. He was going off and he was pulling out the Code Red, which is a version of a Sunset Flip into a power bomb. That springboard stunner he does is an impressive move. I know Stone Cold Steve Austin doesn't necessarily like it because he feels that John Cena not actually using that as his finisher is actually watering down, the effectiveness of the stunner. Because, Steve Austin, who honestly is the biggest star, money-wise that WWE has ever had.
Oh, absolutely.
The stunner was his finisher for a decade.
Yeah.
So, but, this matchup, you really got a feeling, this was... The fans really didn't say much. They didn't even say much during, the Money in the Bank matchup. But, there was several chants of this is awesome. And so, you could tell, the fans appreciated. And you really got the impression going out of this matchup. And John Cena ends up winning the matchup with the springboard stunner, then follows it up with the attitude adjustment. And, he gets the 3 count. But it really felt like the way the matchup was going, this matchup could have went either way.
By the end of the match, I think I almost flew off my seat.
You were like...
My heart was pounding. This was intense.